Welcome everyone to the first of the Train Open Lectures this academic year. We run these lectures every fortnight throughout the year for the first, second and third term. And if you wish to inquire about future lectures, you can check our website, www.transnational.org.uk, and you can also sign up to our mailing lists on the site itself. So today I'm very happy to kind of set out with the new season of Train Lectures with a talk between Paulo Bruschi and Moacir dos Anjos, and I'll briefly introduce them so that we can set off from there. Paulo Bruschi is a pioneer of new media art in Brazil. In the 1960s, he developed a practice clearly based on conceptual procedures that utilize photography, photographs, photocopies, electrographs, which I'm not sure what they are, but I'm sure he'll be happy to explain, Super 8 films, happenings, performance, interventions, artist books, visual and sound-based poetry, as well as mail art. Within these diverse activities, he established a vast network of information exchange with other artists around the world, most notably with the Fluxus Group. Over the years, he has amassed what has become one of the most important archives of contemporary art in Brazil, which counts with over 70,000 items. And I think Moacir is going to be talking a little bit about that. The archive itself has become, controversially, some would say, an object worthy of exhibition, being shown at the 2004 São Paulo Biennial, for example. Bruschi has also moved towards making it available to research community. So he's had PhD students visiting him and consulting the archive in relation to their research. In 1981, Bruschi was the recipient of the Guggenheim Foundation Fellowship, and together with the support of Xerox in New York, he developed a series of experiments with Xerox film, a process developed by himself the previous year, 1980, at the Catholic University in Pernambuco, his home state in the northeast of Brazil. Between 1981 and 1982, Bruschi and Ipiranga Filho organized the first international exhibition of billboard posters, with approximately 200 of these being produced by artists from 50 different countries. And I think Moacir is going to also mention these in his presentation preceding the conversation. Bruschi has exhibited in many exhibitions, including repeated appearances at the São Paulo Biennial, and I've counted 3, but probably more, I'm not sure. 1984, 2004, and 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And several survey shows, such as the Panorama of Brazilian Art at the Museum of Modern Art in São Paulo in 2001. He is currently a featured artist at London's new development at Frieze, the Frieze Masters Art Fair, showing with São Paulo-based gallery Nara Rossler. And in this respect, I'd like to thank the gallery, and particularly Mariana, for approaching Train with the suggestion of organizing this talk tonight. So I think, without further ado, I'll invite Moacir to give a brief kind of introduction on Paulo Bruschi's work, and then we'll have a kind of more informal conversation. Oh, sorry. I should, of course, introduce Moacir, who just happens to be on the other page. Moacir dos Anjos has worked at the Fundação Joaquim Nabuco in Recife as a researcher and curator since 1990. He was the director of the Museum of Modern Art Aloysio Magalhães, the MAMAM, from 2001 to 2006. And he was a member of the curatorial team for the Itaú Cultural Visual Arts program from 2001 and 2003. Moacir has been on the curatorial councils of the Cisneros Fontanals Art Foundation since 2006, and the Fundação Ibiré Camargo, sorry, I need glasses, since 2008. He was visiting fellow at the Transnational Arts Identity and Nation Train Research Center here at UAL from 2008 to 2009, and was co-curator of Brazil's participation as guest country at ARCO in Madrid, the Contemporary Art Fair, in 2008. He curated the Paralela, an exhibition that occurs in parallel to the São Paulo Biennial in 2004, and was chief curator, together with Aguinaldo Farias, of the 29th edition of the São Paulo Biennial in 2010. So we're very honored to have both these distinguished guests with us tonight. Thank you very much. And I'll be translating the conversation because just to help Bruschi with his English.
Okay. Good evening. Thanks, Michael, for the introduction. Tonight is to just make a brief introduction to Paulo's work, and then it is to make some questions so that he can develop some aspects of his work, which I think is very multifaceted, and I don't intend to delve into all the aspects of his work, but only to touch upon some of the aspects that I think that are more prominent or more interesting for us to discuss tonight. So, as Michael Asper said just in his introduction, Paulo Bruschi's body of work has been evolving and expanding in the course of more than 4 decades. Since the late 60s, it has inaugurated or immersed into or confronted or been associated with some of the most relevant inventions made in the spurious field of contemporary art. From concrete poetry to process poem, from installation to mail art, from Xerox art to artist's book, from billboard art to photographic manipulation, from performance to video, and from all these categories to creations that are very hard to classify. At one point, displeased with the limitations that traditional media imposed on him at the beginning of his artistic career, Paulo set out to paint clouds. He wished to paint clouds. On another occasion, Bruschi asked for technical assistance to directly translate onto paper drawings generated by his thoughts. He'll talk a little bit more about that during our conversation. Throughout his life, and as a result of such numerous and diverse incursions into the world of experimentation, he has made contacts with many artists who shared his desire to map this uncertain territory that art creates and occupies. Paulo Bruschi has exchanged correspondence, impressions, ideas, and works of art with members of the Fluxus and Butai groups, as well as with many other artists from different parts of the world. As a result of these long-standing exchanges, he ended up transforming his studio in Recife, the Brazilian city where he was born and still lives, into the hub of an informal and dense network connecting and linking creators that do not fit into ordinary categories. For example, he has amassed a collection of 1,000 works by Fluxus members and around 200 works by Butai members through this exchange of over the years. And this is a photo of part of his archive in his studio. As a result of this active exchange with other artists, as a result of the need to obtain the diverse information demanded by his production, and also because of his great passion for the safekeeping of anything that, for some reason, he deems relevant, Bruschi has amassed a huge collection of many things. output in the apartment he used as his studio for many years, for many and many years. All rooms in that apartment, including kitchen and bathroom, were crowded with shelves, with drawers, and boxes containing books on art, on history, or on poetry, catalogs, finished works, his own works or other artists' works, projects realized and unrealized, photographs, letters, newspapers, LPs, CDs, tapes, DVDs, assorted documents, videos, artists' portfolios, and anything that could possibly either contribute to his work or to register his work once it was done. Although his work hardly ever materializes as a finished object in the environment of his studio, usually requiring a shared space to come to life, everything he produces is the result of his permanent contact with his very unique collection. Conversely, everything he produced over many years would end up in his studio, thereby increasing that same collection, being thereby witness of the close affinity of art and life. So all his work would evolve from his contact with that archive, this collection, and after being realized, would return to this, making part of this collection as well. Just as he's combined at his studio those items that attract him, it's also from this studio that he launches into the world, aimless more often than not, wherever he has to offer. Transformed into a huge archive, his studio used to challenge, however, ordinary cataloging methods. Inside this crowded studio, everything stands against something else. Often, even the borderlines that separate techniques, periods, authors, and nationalities are unmade or are confounded. And if the disorderly heap of things collected appears unkempt, it's first and foremost an indication of the impossibility and maybe of the impropriety of organizing the complex relations of contamination and of contiguity that Paul Brusque has envisaged when one thinks in terms of ordinary bibliographical and artistic cataloging parameters. It's like, as he proposed with his Zócalo archive, a new and or impossible way of classifying all these things that he thinks important for his own work. Attempts to create adequate and comprehensive ordering categories are consistently frustrated by what appears to the artist's eyes as a potentially endless shifting of the meaning of things contained therein. Even a supposedly viable disposal of some stuff is continually postponed, continually delayed. As a result, papers and assorted objects used to pile up, forming a humble heap on the floor, a space of no categorization in which all differences were offset and unmade, where they could remain for years. Given its wide-ranging contents and erratic arrangements, Paul Brusque's almost legendary former studio, because he just moved it into another space, but this studio mirrors and therefore duplicates the free-flowing nature of his oeuvre, made of a body of works that does not conform or adapt to any symbolical place. An oeuvre that defines itself as a process. An oeuvre exempted, therefore, from pursuing a single goal. And from this brief introduction, I'd like from now on to raise some questions to Paulo about aspects that I consider very central in his work. And I'll start with the first question to Paulo. Asking from who is Paulo Brusque? Or quem é Paulo Brusque? What's that make a descendant of a Russian living in the northeast of Brazil, therefore far away from the so-called political and cultural centers of the country, Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, to transform himself into this artist, or to use an expression which was often used by Elliot Sica, to transform himself into an inventor. Which were your first reference, both in the field of visual arts and in the field of poetry? And which were, Paulo, what really moved you in the beginning of your career? So, quais são as suas referências?
The questions have been passed on previously to Paulo to ease with the translation.
Em primeiro lugar, eu queria agradecer o convite, né, que me foi feito, essa oportunidade de conversar com vocês sobre o meu trabalho, sobre a minha obra.
I'd like to first of all thank you all for the invitation to be kind of sharing my work here.
E Moacir perguntou porque eu sempre trabalhei deslocado do eixo Rio-São Paulo, né?
Yeah, Moacir asked why I work outside the axis Rio-São Paulo.
Há uma frase, eu acho que é de Ezra Pound, onde ele diz que você primeiro precisa conhecer a sua aldeia para depois você poder conhecer, em resumo é isso, o mundo, né?
For me, it's a kind of a summary of similar to what Ezra Pound said, that first of all you need to know your village before knowing the whole world.
E quanto à referência, tem muitos artistas que dizem que não tiveram influência assim quase nenhuma. Eu sou tudo que veio antes de mim.
Many artists say that they don't have any influence. No one kind of influenced them. But with myself, I am everything that came before myself.
Agora, feito numa música de Gilberto Gil, é que ele diz assim: agora o meu caminho eu mesmo traço, eu mesmo sigo.
Now, also, it's like Gilberto Gil's song, where he says, "My route, I make myself," something like that.
O artista ele tem que ser muito bem informado para não trilhar por caminhos, né, pesquisar muito, já percorridos. E toda a minha vida eu sempre pesquisei muito, né?
Artists need to research a lot so that they don't veer away from that path. And in my life, I have always researched.
E citar algum artista assim não é difícil, mas como eu disse que vem de tudo que veio antes, né? Eu gostaria de salientar um grande artista que ele é conhecido como pintor do modernismo, que é o Vicente do Rego Monteiro, que morou a vida toda em Paris.
I mean, amongst all these influences, it's hard to kind of highlight one in particular, but I would like to, nevertheless, highlight Vicente Monteiro do Rego,
que é de Recife e
who was a modernist from Recife.
E ele, desde a década de 40, né, ele já fazia poesia visual, foi o tradutor para o Brasil de Mallarmé e traduziu, por incrível que pareça, caligramas de Apollinaire.
So I'm just going to add a little bit. So he was active in the kind of inaugural moment of modernism in the 20s, but Bruschi kind of highlights the fact that from the 40s, Vicente Monteiro do Rego was producing concrete poetry, was translating Mallarmé and Apollinaire's calligrams.
E Recife, a minha cidade, para fechar essa questão, por coincidência, é a cidade que é mais bem representada praticamente no setor de literatura, com João Cabral de Melo Neto, né, Mauro Mota e Gilberto Freire. Na literatura você tem, quer dizer, e eu sempre, por incrível que pareça, eu sempre gostei mais de ler a própria literatura e música, né, artes visuais. Eu li um período, hoje eu já não leio mais sobre artes visuais.
So beyond the kind of fact that Vicente Monteiro do Rego came from Recife, and Recife represents this important kind of pole within the kind of development of art, There's also the side of literature, which Paulo has always been very much influenced and interested in. And examples such as writers such as João Cabral de Melo Neto, Gilberto Freire, the sociologist, the kind of most important sociologist of the 20th century in Brazil. Amongst others.
Okay, Paulo, let's just to follow up a little bit on that talk, because I think that would be interesting if you talk a little bit about the way that you make contact with those different group of artists working in different parts of the world, like Fluxus and Butai, especially if one thinks that you lived in Recife, a city that were not part of that sort of international circulation of art at that moment, 30, 40 years ago. And also, in the context, I'd like to talk a little bit also about your work in the context of the military dictatorship in Brazil that lasted until mid-80s. So you sort of established this dance network with another artists in a moment that the possibilities of communication were very difficult, both because of the fact that those artists lived in other countries, but also because of the repressive environment that you use it with in Recife. So eu queria que você falasse um pouco sobre esse contexto, contato com esses outros artistas, no momento que não tinha essa possibilidade de comunicação, mas também no contexto da ditadura militar no Brasil.
A meio arte, para mim, foi uma das coisas mais importantes, porque eu entrei no começo do movimento no começo dos anos 70.
Mail art for me was a very significant, important event in my career. So I kind of became engaged with it very early on in its development at the beginning of the 1970s.
Que foi um movimento que surgiu no mundo todo, não tinha nacionalidade, não tinha grupos criadores, nem individualmente.
Mail art was a movement that emerged kind of almost simultaneously around the world, without any specific nationality, kind of joining groups from the most diverse contexts and regions.
E, por sorte, quase a totalidade da crítica, da imprensa, da galeria, dos museus, ficaram à margem, negaram o movimento, por sorte. Nós agradecemos.
Luckily, all the kind of the traditional arts criticism, journalism, the gallery sectors, museums, in short, the art world, was outside of this movement, so there was no kind of interaction.
Na arte, a internet, para quem participou da Arte Correio, foi uma consequência natural.
So internet, according to Paulo, was kind of a natural consequence of mail art.
Porque, à medida que iam surgindo as novas parcerias, os inventos tecnológicos, nós íamos utilizando-os dentro dessa rede extraordinária.
So, as new technological events were taking place, because of the vast network of mail art, artists would communicate and begin using these new techniques and technologies within their art.
Há uma diferença muito grande de artistas que utilizaram algumas coisas de correio. Marcel Duchamp usou, quase Giacomo Balla, Rauschenberg e outros usaram, mas não existia o conceito de rede, então não era meio arte.
So, although artists before the late 60s, early 70s had used aspects, kind of elements of what mail art is, such as Marcel Duchamp and Rauschenberg, Balla, and others. At the time, there was no kind of network, so in a sense, what they were doing wasn't mail art per se, but although they were using the same kind of...
Porque nós fomos utilizando o telegrama, o telex.
We use telegrams, telex.
O fax, né, que para mim é uma das grandes invenções, porque era transmissão em tempo real.
fax, which for me was one of the great inventions because it transmitted in real time.
Possibilitava, muito antes da internet, você fazer exposições e coisas simultâneas com diversos países e artistas, em cada um em seu local.
So it was possible this way to have simultaneous events in several countries with artists working around the world on the same event through these kind of real-time means.
Apesar do fax ser de 1875, mais ou menos.
Although fax dates from
1875.
From 1885, more or less.
A primeira ideia do fax.
First idea of the fax.
Jules Verne chegou a incluir num livro dele que foi rejeitado na época.
Leading to Jules Verne including it in a book that in the end wasn't published.
Então, antes da internet, nós já trabalhávamos nessa rede intensa devido ao fax.
So, because of fax, before the internet existed, we already worked within a kind of worldwide web.
Havia experiências simultâneas que nós fazíamos, que eu chamava cobra de várias cabeças. Nós marcávamos um horário e cada artista em seu país ia interferindo e reencaminhando o fax. E, no final, cada um tinha uma exposição em sua cidade que não sabia o que era.
So, for example, there is an experience that Paulo calls a snake with several heads, or with many heads, which involved using a fax where each artist at a particular moment in time, at the same moment in time around the world, would send fax messages to each other and add to these messages so that the overall product would grow, and each one would exhibit this in their own context and place.
Você quer mostrar o filme agora? O Moacir falou, eu fui funcionário público a minha vida inteira para poder sobreviver.
I worked as a, what's it called, a public civil servant all my life so that I could survive, I could make a living.
A minha primeira obra vendida faz cerca de 4 anos, 5 anos, no máximo.
The first work of art I sold was 4 or 5 years ago.
Eu nunca me preocupei com isso, porque eu tinha como me manter, e eu sempre fiz o que eu quis, como quis, aonde quis e como quis.
So selling art was never something that I was preoccupied with. So I've always done what I wanted, the way I wanted, etc.
E me impressiona porque, mais do que nunca, no mundo todo, os artistas hoje, eles procuram afirmação através de mercado, através de uma repercussão na crítica ou de espaços. Isso tem me impressionado bastante.
So what worries me and also kind of amazes me is that artists try to find the kind of recognition, legitimation, respect through sales, through art criticism, through these means.
E eu trabalhei no Ministério da Saúde e, graças a esse meu emprego, eu pude fazer pesquisa com inúmeros materiais, equipamentos.
So I worked in the Ministry of Health, and because of this position, I was able to utilize materials from all sorts of different sources. Mas você não respondeu a pergunta do Moacir sobre a ditadura.
Ah, sim. E sobre a questão da ditadura, né, eu sempre fiz trabalhos de rua, de rap e de performance, e para mim é uma diferença muito grande entre o rap e a performance, são duas coisas diferentes, né? E eu sempre combati, claro, não só no Brasil, em qualquer lugar do mundo, a questão dos regimes ditatoriais. E no Brasil me empenhei muito e fui preso 3 vezes. Né? A minha anistia saiu há 3 anos atrás.
So, I mean, on the other side of this freedom was that the fact that Paulo worked during a period of military dictatorship. So, through performances or happenings, which he considers very different means of expression, and as a consequence, he was imprisoned 3 times, and his amnesty was only decreed 3 anos, 3 years ago. But it was just to respond to the issue of the dictatorship.
Isso, eu posso citar outros artistas também que sofreram essa perseguição do Brasil, o Cildo Meirelles, o Barrio, né, o Antônio Manuel e alguns outros que também continuaram lutando. Eu queria citá-los porque eles continuaram e até hoje eles não saíram do seu percurso retilíneo, né?
So I'm of course not the only artist that suffered repression in Brazil, and I'd like to kind of give other examples such as Cildo Meirelles, Arthur Barrio, and Antonio Manuel, who maintained their kind of creative, aesthetic, political convictions, despite the fact that they worked under such conditions.
E entre esses trabalhos que eu realizei com equipamentos médicos, eu fiz uma amizade com um neurologista e comecei a estudar, né, os neurônios e os equipamentos de eletroencefalografia. Então, desde o início dos anos 70, eu comecei a fazer trabalhos com equipamento fazendo eletro, que era uma forma de desenhar direto do cérebro, para o papel, sem utilizar as mãos nem nada do meu corpo para expressar o que eu pensava.
So returning to the fact that he worked within the kind of hospital environment, and he was kind of open to new experimentations. One such example is the fact that he worked with a neurologist at the hospital, and he had the idea of making drawings directly from his brain using the electroencephalogram. Yeah? So that he didn't need to use any other part of the body. It would be a kind of a direct intervention from the brain to the paper, rather than going through the expression or the gestural kind of...
Yeah, I think that could show some of work that's directly related that that's a video that registers some of these drawings made by the mind. It's interesting because it's that piece and many others media that Paulo Brusco has worked over the years uses the idea of reproduction, either the faxes, Xerox, or photography and video, and these works that is done with these medical machines. These deals with this idea of reproduction, something that was the male art, something that's been present in his work over the years. So we are going to show this. It's a video. Registro de uma.
It's a documentation of a making of a work. Yeah.
Não documentei isso.
Você considera obra mesmo? It's a documentation, but he considered it also as an artwork. Yeah.
No, I'd like just briefly to come back to that environment of military dictatorship in Brazil during the 70s and 80s, where you did many of your works. Because, of course, that many of these works were made as a response against this situation of political exception that you had there in Brazil at the time. But I'd like to ask a question about the political nature of your work, because it's very often some commentators define the political art in Brazil as being restricted to that period that the artists produced their works against, or as a direct response against censorship, against torture, against violence. Of course, in this way, these works are clearly political, have a clearly political motivation. But I think that we could, in relation to your work, also in terms of in relation to the works of Ciro Meirelles, the artists you mentioned before, Arthur Barrios, Ciro Meirelles, Antônio Manuel, and many others, I think that you can think in terms of, in political terms, in a wider way, or because the strength of maybe I'm oversimplifying here, but there is a thesis that quite often say that these works are political only way that directly confronting that political situation in Brazil, the military dictatorship. And I completely disagree with this thesis because what it takes for granted that what makes a work of art political is its content, and not its capacity to challenge the conventional way that we see the world and we think about the work. I'm saying all that because I'd like to ask you, Paulo, not only about your opinion about this question of political art, but specifically to ask you about the place of humor and jokes in your work, which is something that traverses your whole career, and that many times for me is much more subversive, more political in a sense, than any explicitly content that many works of art convey. I mean, I think that the humor in my work is sometimes what makes it political, the capacity that you have to defy convention.
Dá para dar uma resumida em português para o Paulo?
Não, dá. É só para...
Não, porque tem o detalhe, ele falou da arte política.
Essa questão da arte política, que é muito ligada ao conteúdo da coisa. E queria saber sua opinião sobre você, que eu discordo disso, que é só conteúdo, que fez a arte política, e perguntar a você sobre o lugar do humor e da brincadeira no seu trabalho. Eu discordo dessa ideia que a arte política é só aquela que tem conteúdo político.
Tipo panfletário, ou que está respondendo a uma certa situação.
E no seu caso, eu acho que o humor é muito político no seu trabalho, porque tem essa capacidade de desconcertar as pessoas.
E que você falou um negócio também interessante, que a arte política não é necessariamente uma arte que reage a uma situação, mas uma arte que faz mudar uma maneira de pensar, seja qual for, e através de um outro.
Em primeiro lugar, eu acho que a arte política, eu defino a base do trabalho é a quebra de estética.
So in the first place, I define political art as the breaking down of aesthetics.
Não existe mudança sem uma quebra de estética. Não existe revolução sem uma quebra de estética.
There's no change, no revolution without a breaking up of aesthetics.
E a questão do humor que está sempre presente no meu trabalho, eu estava lendo um livro de Marcel Duchamp, eu não me recordo qual.
So the question of humor in my work, which is something that's always present in my work, and here I kind of relate to a book I was reading on Marcel Duchamp.
E, em resumo, ele diz mais ou menos assim que devemos temer muito as pessoas sérias.
Where Duchamp says we should be very afraid indeed of serious people.
Porque é um grande predicado para se tornar um tirano.
Because it's a very clear predicament of becoming a tyrant.
E então eu parei o livro e, na minha biblioteca, fui consultar os livros de história. E não existe nenhuma foto de um político dos tiranos durante toda a história rindo. São todos muito sérios.
So I went to make sure if this was in fact correct, and looked up in my books in my library to check whether I could find a photograph of a tyrant, a dictator in history, smiling. And I couldn't find it.
E eu trabalhei muito com os classificados de jornais desde os anos 70 até hoje.
So I worked a lot with newspaper classified ads since the 70s till today.
E um deles que eu publiquei, né, nós sorrimos, mas pagamos caro.
And one of these kind of classifieds that I published in a newspaper said the following: "We smile, but we pay a lot for it, for the privilege."
A ditadura no Brasil não queria permitir que ninguém fosse feliz.
The Brazilian dictatorship did not want to allow anyone to be happy.
Eu sempre trabalhei com humor, com a ironia, com o acaso e a ousadia.
I've always worked with humor, irony, randomness, and chance. I think I've got it.
Eu acho que a arte é mais a forma, claro, de ver do que de fazer. Não?
So art for me is more a way of seeing than doing.
Eu acho que os artistas são desnecessários no dia que eles existem para mostrar umas coisas que as outras pessoas não veem.
Artist exists only to show things to other people, things that they can't see, but they're kind of artists são desnecessários.
Sim.
But in fact they're not necessary artists.
I think that you have some images. I'd like just you to comment some of your. These are some realized works that you realized, but I'd like to also to talk you to talk about a little bit about unrealized projects that you could not realize at the moment that they were in thought. So because only a few weeks ago we opened an exhibition in São Paulo where you were showed the documentation of pieces that you never realized. So the works that kept as unrealized. So I'd like to ask you if what's your relation to those works, and if you would ever realize them today, if it would be possible today, or that would be to betray them.
É a primeira vez que eu exponho em São Paulo, no Instituto Tomiotaki, projetos não realizados.
For the first time, I'm showing unrealized projects in São Paulo at the Tomiotaki Institute.
Foi feita uma triagem. Eu tenho livros de anotações que eu chamo Banco de Ideias.
We made a selection out of pages from the books, which I call como é que chama o livro?
Banco de Ideias.
Idea banks.
E que tem cerca de 1000 ou mais projetos que nunca foram realizados, inéditos, ou que foram abortados pela ditadura, né? foram interrompidos.
So in these books there are about approximately 1,000 projects that were either abandoned because of political reasons or never realized.
E eu queria citar uma frase de Santos Dumont, que ele diz, que era um camarada curioso, ele diz o seguinte: tudo que um homem pensar, outros poderão realizar.
I'd like to cite, to quote Santos Dumont. Santos Dumont. Sorry. Santos Dumont was, in Brazil, he's seen as the father of aviation. I think he was the first man to invent and fly an airplane that took off on its own power. So in Brazil, they considered him to be the first person to actually fly. But that's in Brazil. Outside of Brazil, it's usually the Wright brothers. But it's kind of on a technicality. But so Bruschi likes to quote Santos Dumont on a quote in which Dumont says that what someone thinks, others will realize.
E entre os classificados que eu publiquei, eu posso citar dois que eu gosto muito, que eles foram praticamente realizados depois, eu explico, que é o Arte Aeronimbo, que é de colorir as nuvens, várias nuvens de várias cores.
So one of these unrealized projects was one which he had the idea of coloring clouds.
Que é eu publiquei em 1974.
Which he published in classificado.
Sim, no classificado.
In a newspaper, in a classified ad in 1974.
E em 76 eu publiquei Composição Aurorial.
And in 76 he published again in the classified something called Composition Ariel.
Aurorial, por causa da aurora boreal. E eu publiquei que era uma proposta de fazer uma aurora boreal tropical, artificial, colorida.
And the idea was to make aurora borealis, a tropical aurora borealis. Yeah.
Que a NASA conseguiu fazer em 89. E hoje...
Which NASA managed to produce in 1989.
E hoje é possível, quer dizer, há uma diferença, né? Graças ao equipamento. Hoje eu trabalho sempre e agradeço sempre às máquinas, a parceria criadora, como coautora.
I always like to thank machines for the collaboration, for the creative collaboration.
Esse trabalho, Arte em Cágado, é de 72.
I'm not going to manage to translate the title. This work is from 78.
Eu trabalhei muito ironizando os slogans da ditadura no Brasil. Nessa época era: este é um país que vai para frente.
Okay, so he's playing with the slogans of the dictatorship.
72.
One such slogan said, "This is a country that goes forward."
Esse é um trabalho, quando eu fui do Ministério da Saúde, que isso é uma droga. 1971.
This is a work from 1971, basically formed of medicine boxes, drug boxes, and the title is a play on the word drug. This is a drug, but in Brazil that also means this is rubbish.
Esse museu era você falando, Museu do Estado. Atitude do artista, tudo do museu. Atitude do artista, arte não pode ser presa.
That's a piece that in 1978, during the dictatorship, he painted on the. He had a project that was refused by the museum. The project was to paint the walls of the museum with this phrase, the artist.
Art cannot be imprisoned.
Art cannot be imprisoned. So he painted on the streets, and the wall was overpainted by the museum.
Sim, no muro do museu.
And then he painted it again, so sort of trying to express himself.
Atitude do artista.
because the attitude of the artist cannot be imprisoned.
Essa é a frase. Não pode ser presa. E a atitude do museu que
And the attitude of the museum.
But I think it might be a good point in which to open up for questions, because I'm a bit concerned with time. And I see that someone at the back there has already. But could you just, because we're recording, could you just wait until we manage to get one of our microphones to you? Thanks, Nick. I think it's because of the recording. Oops.
Thank you. Very grateful for the pharmaceutical boxes. Puts a very different take on Damien Hirst. Thank you for that. And
precedes Damien Hirst.
71. I'm interested in the idea of the aesthetic collapsing or breaking down, I think was what was said.
Bom, ele gostou muito do trabalho das caixas de drogas que precede o Damien Hirst, tal. Mas ele está interessado no que você disse sobre a quebra da estética.
I'm not sure there's a specific question. It's more just a keen interest. Yeah.
Você podia falar um pouco mais sobre o que você quer dizer com isso?
And the revolution.
Posso citar um exemplo em termos práticos.
I can give you an example, a practical example.
Eu faço a diferença entre o happening e a performance.
I differentiate happening and performance.
O happening, você dava o tiro inicial e não sabia a trajetória da bala.
With happenings, you fire the gun, but you don't know the trajectory the bullet is going to make.
E dependia da participação do público, era nas ruas, era feito em locais públicos, nas ruas, né, praças.
So it depended on the public, the people's intervention, and it was usually made happened in the streets.
E a performance aprisiona essa ação em espaços fechados, onde não há uma participação de público praticamente e é feito para especialistas.
So on the other hand, with performance, there is a kind of imprisonment of this kind of action, which is kind of taken into a gallery, and there is no participation of the public, and usually the people watching it are specialists.
Embora eu através de um exercício, claro, eu consegui me deseducar muito cedo para conceito de arte, o que é bom, o que é ruim, que vem muito do cristianismo, né? E outras coisas também que lhe aprisionam.
So from an early age, I tried to uneducate myself from notions of good and bad in art, which is something that comes from our kind of Christian upbringing.
O que é bem, o que é mal, o que vem do cristianismo e fazer ações sem nenhuma preocupação nem o que é arte, se vai agradar, se serve, se não serve, né? Feito o trabalho que produziu aí.
Leading to actions that where he had no concern of whether they would please or not, whether they were good or bad, etc.
É claro, isso já vem sendo feito por vários artistas, né? Agora cada época tem a sua escrita, né?
So obviously this kind of attitude has been done by artists throughout the centuries, the years, and so on. But every epoch has its own form of writing. There's a question down here.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you for a very interesting talk. I was wondering, you mentioned irony. Could you define what that means to you?
Ela perguntou se você poderia definir essa questão da ironia, o que ela quer dizer para você, a ironia.
A ironia é um comportamento igual ao outro qualquer, inerente ao ser humano. Ela é uma reação de acordo com a ação.
Irony is an attitude, a behavior inherent to the human being. It kind of it's kind of emerges from the individual. It's
Eu posso citar esse trabalho, por exemplo, que está aí,
I can give as an example this work that's on the screen now.
que é, eu acho, o melhor trabalho que eu fiz de body art.
A mudança de significado das coisas infinitamente. Vai lá mais uma vez. Qual que foi a sua ideia quando você aceitou mostrar o seu arquivo integralmente na Bienal de São Paulo, como estava instalado no seu estúdio ateliê? E qual era a sua ideia de como que o significado, a potência de significados das coisas contidas nesse arquivo iam ser ativadas naquela ocasião que as pessoas não poderiam acessar o arquivo em si? E se a sua opinião mudou com o tempo, vivendo aquela experiência de como as pessoas interpretaram a presença do arquivo na Bienal?
Okay, Fernanda's referring to an issue I briefly mentioned in the introduction, relating to the fact that Paulo Brusqui's archive was presented almost as a work of art at the 2004 São Paulo Biennial. So she's asking what kind of what did he think about by doing that, and what opinions does he have from the experience and so on.
Há duas questões iniciais. Primeiro, a ideia, eu nunca propus nada a nenhuma Bienal.
Okay, there are 2 points. The first is that I never proposed anything to any biennial.
O convite partiu do curador, por coincidência, Moacir estava presente, o Afonso Hug, ele que propôs levar o meu ateliê para a Bienal de São Paulo.
Okay, so the proposal came from the curator, and by coincidence, Moacir dos Anjos was present when the invitation came forth to take his studio into the biennial. The curator was, of course, Afonso Hug.
A primeira questão, me interessava, a minha obra não foi mostrada praticamente.
Peraí, mostrada onde?
Nessa Bienal, mostrou o ateliê onde apareciam poucas obras. Me interessava mostrar o processo do meu trabalho e o que é um ateliê do artista.
Okay, so that was the first point. Essa já é o segundo ponto. Né?
Não.
Okay, so this is still on the first point. His work was not shown at that biennial. It was what's interested him at that moment was to show the process that led towards his work. So in that sense, kind of showing the studio.
E segundo o Afonso Hug, o curador, não cumpriu o que ficou acertado.
Segundo você ou segundo
ele?
O segundo ponto.
O segundo ponto, o curador não cumpriu o que ficou acertado, que eu vou explicar.
Okay, the second point is that the curator did not fulfill his side of the contract. He did not do what he had promised he would do with the exhibiting the archive.
Que era disponibilizar naquele pequeno corredor terminais de computadores onde seriam acessados a parte mais importante, como fluxo, Gutai, a documentação no meio arte e outros documentos que eu tenho desde o pós-guerra até hoje.
So, and this consisted of having a number of computers where the public could access some of the most important kind of correspondence and material relating to Fluxus, Gutai, and the kind of really historic stuff that the archive contained. So there would be a kind of electronic means of accessing the material.
E um dia por semana, porque foi tudo meu, inclusive os projetos que eu estava trabalhando, eu discutiria no meu ateliê vazio no Recife, com o público da Bienal, o que significou eu passar cerca de 5 meses com o vazio.
Como assim? Eu não entendi.
Foi tudo.
Não, durante o período da Bienal, ele ficaria no Recife, com o ateliê vazio.
E falando essa experiência do vazio para mim.
Mas falando outra vez do Skype.
Do Skype com a Bienal.
So, and the other part of the idea was to be in his kind of empty studio in Recife, and once a week speaking with people at the biennial, at the exhibition, via Skype about this experience of being in this empty space. Nick, we have a question over here. Sorry, Nick. Sorry, there was two. Okay.
É que faz uma relação com a pergunta anterior. Paulo, a realização, a exposição e a publicação dos trabalhos fazem parte do seu processo criativo ou você se satisfaz com a geração de ideias e projetos?
Desculpe, você podia repetir, por favor?
Se a realização, a exposição e a publicação dos trabalhos faz parte do processo criativo ou se você se satisfaz com a geração de ideias e de projetos?
Primeiro,
so she's asking if the publication, the production of exhibitions and so on is part of the creative process or not.
Eu nunca me preocupei nem com exposição, nem com trabalho, nem com premiação, com nada. Eu sempre trabalhei, né? E o primeiro livro publicado sobre mim foi em 2000 e pouco, que Cristina Freire publicou. Saíram outras, mas eu nunca me preocupei com isso. Eu sempre não é preocupação, eu sempre trabalhei, né?
I've never been much bothered with exhibitions, publications, and so on. For example, the first publication on my work was only published recently in 2005. So, yeah, I'm not bothered with exhibitions, publications, and so on.
Então, assim como a comercialização dos trabalhos, a institucionalização para você nunca foi uma necessidade?
Não, por isso que eu sempre fui funcionário público, né, para ter minha liberdade. E eu sempre eu sei o que eu faço. Eu sempre tive conhecimento que minha obra é muito difícil. Eu faço coisa que eu não sei, quanto mais os outros.
I need to translate the question and the answer now. So the commercialization, the institutionalization of the work is not a problem or an issue for you either. And the answer was that no, that's why I've always worked as a civil servant to be able to afford to live without being kind of dependent on art, as I mentioned.
He knows that his work is very difficult, and sometimes even he doesn't know
He doesn't know what he's doing. So the public is very difficult. Even for him, it's very difficult sometimes the work. So it's used to not to exhibit, not being acknowledged, or all those. Recently, it's being acknowledged, and I'd like to take the opportunity. Sorry, first that's the
continue, and we can go back since there's a flow going. Yeah.
Just a quick, I'm just wondering if I remember that 60 years ago we were talking. You were taking part of an exhibition at Maman, at the museum I directed in the mid 2000s, and I remember you saying to me that you had never ever sold a work of art at that moment. Você nunca tinha vendido trabalho em 2006. Me lembro a gente conversando no Maman. 2005, 2006. And that situation has changed a lot over the last few years. Now you have a lot of pieces in important collections, public and private collections. So I just wondering if that makes any difference for you. Which difference does it make for you? This sort of, now you are part of this so-called art world.
But now he's a featured artist at Frieze.
At Frieze, at Frieze Masters, in the spotlight season of Frieze Masters.
O que é que mudou depois desse reconhecimento que existe hoje em dia do seu trabalho? Se algo mudou para você, como é que você vê isso?
Nada. Para mim não faz diferença nenhuma. Para mim, nada disso modifica a minha maneira de fazer minhas coisas. Nada disso. Eu sou imune a qualquer coisa desse tipo, então se vende é uma consequência, mas isso não me modifica em nada.
It doesn't affect me in any way. I mean, if something sells to a museum or an institution, that's a consequence of the work, but it doesn't affect my attitude towards making art or how I see my art. No.
I wanted to ask a bit more about your mail art network and practice, and in particular whether you sent things out in large quantities and the same thing everywhere at random, or did you send particular pieces to certain people? And I wanted to ask whether you had contacts in the 70s with East European artists, particularly Poland, Hungary and Czechoslovakia, who were engaged in the mail art network in this time.
Very good question. Ela quer saber pouquinho mais da tua rede de conexões na Arte Correio e como isso acontecia, né? Se você mandava várias coisas assim para uma pessoa, se era espalhado, como é que era o processo e também se você tinha relações com grupos específicos, particularmente na Europa do Leste. Né?
Tinha. A grande coisa boa da Arte Correio é que era sem nacionalidade, não existia continentes. E é claro que a troca de trabalho era geral. Correspondência, você se identificava e trocava algumas questões, ou filosóficas sobre a arte, ou questões políticas, ou questões...
Mas ela está perguntando de que maneira você identifica com uma pessoa, com um grupo, se era uma coisa assim...
Era uma coisa aberta, né? Por exemplo, o Ken Friedman, até hoje eu tenho contato, desde os anos 70, né? E alguns outros que, na América Latina, nós tínhamos muito contato por causa da ditadura da América Latina, com Vigo, Zabala, Dessler, no Chile. E no leste europeu, eu fui me encontrar com Robert Heffer, na antiga Alemanha Oriental.
I'm not going to manage to translate all this. Você conseguiu seguir tudo que ele falou?
Arte Correio...
There's kind of... I think the answer wasn't very kind of specific, but he mentioned that the way communication happened varied from context to context. So there were kind of individuals, and I'm not going to remember their names now, but which some kind of very strong kind of correspondence established because of similar interest or friendship, and some of them maintain kind of close contact to this day. And he gave examples with people in other Latin American countries, for example, but also in Eastern Europe. Quem que era na Europa do Leste?
Na Europa era Robert Heffer, do Fluxo, do Grupo Fluxo.
Eu não consigo entender o sotaque.
Robert Heffer, do Fluxo in German.
And in Poland,
e com vários, Polônia, Rússia, Bulgária, todo o leste europeu, Checoslováquia, né? E eles tinham uma dificuldade devido à censura, quer dizer, o controle dos meios de reprodução. Então eu fiz uma análise tive uma reunião com eles lá no leste europeu.
They also suffered difficulty in terms of censorship of reproduced material, and I had a meeting with them. Quando foi a reunião?
82.
In 1982.
Na Alemanha Oriental.
In Eastern Europe. In Eastern Germany, sorry.
E eu analisando no meu arquivo, você vê que toda a produção de meio arte do leste europeu na época é o quê? É a gravura, que eles sempre foram muito bons, a fotografia também.
So a lot of their work focused on printmaking, photography.
Porque outros meios eram controlados, então
because other means of reproduction were more controlled and censored.
E também, como a América Latina, era abordado muita questão política, e por ter, inclusive, alguns artistas exilados, como o Guilherme Dessler, do Chile, que morou a vida toda na Bulgária e foi morreu na Alemanha, que agora no Chile, que estão levantando a grande obra desse importante.
Whilst in Latin America, lots of artists who were kind of politically orientated became exiled, and some of them went to live in Eastern Europe. So that kind of also created.
And there is something that she asked.
thing that he asked about Paulo, I was just talking to him in parallel, that he said that he would never send the same piece for different people. Always different pieces for different people. So there would be unique pieces.
Para não quebrar a corrente, existia como uma ética de você receber um contato, respondia para aquela pessoa, embora que você nunca havia contactado.
There was ethics around mail art that you would always respond to a contact even though you didn't know them personally or previously.
Existiam as correntes feitas de dinheiro que você cortava o primeiro da lista, mandava um trabalho, botava seu nome embaixo, tirava 10 corpos e circulava.
There was a kind of a chain, pyramid kind of system, no? Where you would take the top name off the list, add your name at the bottom, and send 10 to each name on the list, and so on, and so that the network would kind of open
E
up.
graças à eficiência dessa rede, evitou que determinados artistas fossem assassinados na época, porque existiam os comitês de anistia internacional que funcionavam muito bem, e cada artista que era preso, toda a rede mandava comunicação para aquele país, para o ministério, para a presidência, e eles terminavam soltando, porque era uma forma de se denunciar para o mundo todo que aquele artista estava sendo preso, o que me ajudou no Brasil também.
Beyond the simple kind of context of mail art, this network proved to be very efficient in terms of denouncing the kind of political imprisonment of artists, so that if someone was imprisoned, the entire network would kind of denounce that act and make itself heard, and that probably saved many artists from disappearing and so on. Oh, we have tried Sophia over there, and then Isabel.
I'd just like to know about which artists may have influenced your practice within Latin America, and what kind of communication there was amongst you, like only in Brazil, or which other countries and who?
Ela perguntou qual os artistas brasileiros assim ou da América Latina que te influenciaram assim, e que tipo de comunicação existia assim na época.
Não houve influência porque éramos todos contemporâneos.
There's no influence because we're all contemporary.
Trocávamos ideias, não.
We exchanged ideas.
E por exemplo, Leon Ferrari, eu tenho uma convivência, uma amizade até hoje, porque ele foi exilado no Brasil, em São Paulo, e mantivemos contato.
So someone like Leon Ferrari became a very close friend, and we kind of exchanged correspondence a lot because he was exiled. He went from Argentina to Brazil as a political exile, and that kind of established a kind of closeness in.
Eu citaria alguns artistas, por exemplo, na Argentina eu citaria entre outros.
Amongst others.
Edgardo Vigo, Antônio Vigo, que teve o filho adolescente assassinado pela ditadura, não por isso, mas pela obra dele extraordinária.
So someone like Antônio Vigo.
Edgardo Antônio Vigo
had his son assassinated by the dictatorship, and
adolescente nos anos 70.
In the 70s, his teenage.
E ele é um artista extraordinário. Horácio Zabala, que vai para o exílio, vai na Argentina também, vai trabalhar no grupo de arte sociológica, né, com o Fred, com o Fisch, com o grupo, e depois ele vai para a Itália. Voltou recentemente para Buenos Aires, já ele está com 80 anos. Por 80
Zabala was exiled to. Aonde que ele foi? Para a Itália?
Ele foi trabalhar com um grupo de arte sociológica.
So who went
primeiro na França.
To France to work with artists, sociology kind of group, research group.
O Luis Carrion, que é um mexicano ele faleceu, a vida toda dele foi em Amsterdã, que montou a primeira livraria de livro de artista e foi um ponto nesse movimento.
Carrion from Mexico, who went to Amsterdam and built the first artist bookshop.
Do Uruguai, entre outros, né, Clemente Padim e Jorge Carabarro, que foram presos por 4 anos nesse período, né, e também eu ressaltaria um trabalho aqui de Carabarro, que o nome Uruguai, que era um trabalho que ele fez e imprimiu e mandava, que era o Ugu em preto.
Ubu?
Não, Uruguai.
Uruguai.
O nome Uruguai, todo em preto, agora o A e o Y, ou I, em vermelho. Uruguai, em vermelho.
So, I'm beginning to get tired. So, como é que é o nome do...
Clemente Padim.
No, Clemente Padim.
Jorge Carabarro.
Clemente Padim and Jorge Carabarro. 2 other artists who from Uruguay who were imprisoned and kind of established a kind of a long-lasting kind of connection with Paulo Bruschi. And Bruschi mentioned a work by Caraballo, where he wrote to Uruguay as in Uru in black and I in red. So,
entre outros, né, Jesus Galdamés, em El Salvador. No México, você tem um grupo Solidarte, né, César Espinosa, Maurício Guerreiro, que está em Brasil agora.
I'm not going to remember all these names. my brain is exploding.
Há diverso mundo todo.
We have a question at the back, and then Caroline. Como é que está de tempo? Eu estou começando a esgotar. Tá bom, então a gente fecha depois.
Hi, thank you for the talk and the discussion so far. Linking on to the idea of a question of influence that you've been asked about, artistic influence, but I would like to know if there was, on some level, a theoretical influence because of the techniques mainly used in mail art, like printmaking, photography, photocopying. If there was an awareness or an influence from theorists, Marxist theorists like Walter Benjamin, and his idea of loss of aura in mechanical reproduction, and if somehow that was circulating amongst the individuals who took part in the exchange of mail art.
Então, ela quer levar a pergunta além da questão de influências de artistas para a questão da influência de teoria. E ela menciona Benjamin, a aura e a reprodução.
A mesma coisa, tanto os grandes pensadores e filósofos como os artistas.
Mas ela quer saber se isso circulava.
Sim, circulava, sim. Circulava, né? Poesia sonora circulava, não só textos, né, nas discussões filosóficas, estéticas e por aí vai, como em qualquer conversa. Né? Era uma conversa internacional, como qualquer conversa. Como circulava videoarte, audioarte, né, poesia sonora, experimental, quer dizer, era um movimento aberto, não existia.
Mas isso como circulava?
Através não só de correspondência, mas
como
nos catálogos tinha, sim, circulava a poesia sonora. Mas nos catálogos tem um texto teórico da Arte Correio, né? E saíram publicações também, assemblagens de revistas em forma de assemblagem, com textos, circulava de tudo, principalmente texto teórico, que é uma coisa fundamental, lógico.
Yes, he says that theoretical texts such as Benjamin's mechanical reproduction, the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction did circulate as many others through several means, such as catalogues. You mentioned also the exchange of recordings and sound works that were exchanged beyond the kind of format of kind of paper kind of correspondence itself. Okay, so I'm going to. There's Caroline and one last question over there. But first, Caroline. and then we're going to close because I think we're running out of time and we need to leave the room by 7.
Eu queria saber como é que está a Arte Correio hoje, e eu não estou falando de arte e-mail, arte Facebook, mas a rede que vocês tinham antes, como é que ela está hoje? So my question is, how is the mail art today? And not speak about email art or Facebook art or anything about that.
But,
how
yes,
is the network today?
How has that network from the 1960s and 70s kind of, how is it today? What is left of it, basically?
Desde 2002 que eu uso o termo e-mail art.
So since 2002 I use the term email art.
E continuo com a mail art, né, com vários outros artistas, a gente continua utilizando os correios, primeiro porque você não pode mandar determinadas coisas pelo correio. E segundo que eu acho que não só eu, como o pessoal daquela época, a gente ainda gosta de mandar coisas pelo correio, né, e coisas que não podem ser enviadas também pela internet.
So despite the fact that I call email, I've named email arts, but the kind of people involved at that time still like to use normal kind of posts, not only because of a kind of nostalgia thing, but because sometimes you can't send everything by the internet. Sometimes the sending of objects and things involves using the post.
E para fechar, eu acho ainda que os artistas não estão sabendo utilizar a internet de uma forma inteligente.
Artists have not quite developed a kind of intelligent way of using the internet yet.
Está utilizando mais como um meio de reprodução, de circulação, o que é bom. Mas ainda, grande parte, é mais um showroom. Eu digo isso a nível internacional. É mais uma demonstração do que a máquina faz, e não a subversão dela. Compreendeu?
So it's still at the process of showing a kind of accumulation of reproduced images and so on, which is also good, but it hasn't yet learned how to subvert the medium itself.
Coisas não palpáveis.
Things that aren't palpable. So could we? I can't remember. Oh, was it? I can't remember who. Oh, yes. So one last question, and I'm afraid we'll have to close.
Just wondered about the video you showed, because it reminded me a bit of surrealist kind of automatic writing, only a kind of truer form of that, without the problem of putting it into words. And I just wondered, because your facial expressions changed during the when the camera was on your face, and I just wondered if you were in a particular state, whether you were asleep or whether you were awake or in some kind of pain.
Ela está perguntando do filme do arte cerebral, não é isso? Ela está querendo saber um pouco mais do teu estado, né, na época que estava filmando, na hora do filmar, se você estava dormindo.
Excelente pergunta.
Em dor. Etc.
Não, normalmente, quando você vai fazer um exame, você fica um pouco dopado para poder não interferir.
Okay, so he appreciates the question. He says it's a very good question, and he said that normally in a kind of medical situation, you are sedated so that your kind of reactions don't interfere with the reading.
E eu estudei com um neurologista os eletrodos, a que neurônio ficava ligado e qual a função de cada um.
So I studied with my friend, the neurologist, what was the function for each of the electrodes.
Eletrodos e neurônios. Cada eletrodo é um neurônio.
And the kind of relationship to the neurons and so on.
E não era um exame médico, então determinadas horas eu pensava, tinha um pensamento suave, um outro intermediário e um outro violento.
So, as it wasn't a medical examination, I could I kind of controlled my thinking, so that at moments I had very kind of suave, gentle, thank you, thoughts, at other times kind of intermediary thoughts, and at other times I would have violent thoughts.
E na outra parte, porque cada parte do corpo humano ele tem uma função e exerce uma relação com todo o corpo.
So obviously each part of the body has its own function, but it also relates to the rest of the body.
Então, claro que ele está ligado com o pensamento, dá uma interferência.
So everything is related to thought, and there is a kind of interference between
com o cérebro. É por isso que aparecem cenas eu rindo.
That's why at moments in the film I'm laughing,
falando,
speaking,
e fazendo alguns outros gestos que interferem no pensamento.
And other gestures that interfere with thought.
Em 76 eu lancei um livro de artista com alguns desses resultados.
In 76 I launched an artist's book with some of these results on the paper. Very well. So I would like to thank Moacir and Paulo Bruschi and everyone for coming and asking questions, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.